Dr. Mama Izzat Zulkifli uh, for organizing this session. Can everyone hear my voice? Am I too not very clear? All right, excellent. All right.
Loud and
Thank you very much for sparing your time in the weekend. At this time, Saturday, joining this session. I'm pretty sure faculty members and Dr. Izzat and the dean, as well as the entire families of the faculties, as well as ourselves, the speakers, really appreciate your time joining us. And not to forget, thank you to Dr. Muhammad Hafiz, Assistant Professor Dr. Muhammad Hafiz, for joining us, Dr. Muhammad Alif, Encik Azwan. I can see a few more colleagues from Dungun as well, and from Punca Alam. Yeah, all right. Before I start, begin my session, my sharing session, I'd like to introduce a bit myself. My name is Muhammad Hairi Jalis. You can call me Hairi. Um, I'm from Wajoho. I did my PhD purely qualitative. Whatever I've delivered and shared with everyone, it's entirely based on my experience, what I've gone through for 3 years in Australia with my supervisory team members who coaching me, who did a very good job coaching me until the end of the finishing line to get my PhD. Um, Other than that, I also prepare some of the notes, means the presentation slide, maybe at the end of the session, whoever wishing to have a copy of it as a reference, you are freely to get it from me or from Dr. Izzat. Okay, all right, let's start the session. Okay, let me share you the screen.
yeah. We are waiting.
Yes.
Eagerly waiting.
Hang on. Okay. Can everyone see this presentation slide?
Yes, yes, we can.
Fantastic.
Maybe you can make it bigger.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, that's better. So that's me. That's my supervisors, Kevin Markwell, Professor Kevin Markwell, who's standing behind me in the picture, and Deborah Cha. Deborah is American. She's from Michigan State. Kevin's Australian, from New South Wales. And that's a little bit of my detail. The topics which I will deliver a snapshot of basic qualitative research, what is actually qualitative research, then in terms of methodology, how people see this qualitative research. So this is the menu of the day, which I custom made to suit the content of these sharing sessions. Well, I will start with the definition of qualitative research. Well, there's no one single definite definition of qualitative research, but the one that I've chosen from Denzin and Lincoln and also Creswell mostly referred by many researchers, and followed by characteristic of qualitative research. And after that, I will touch a little bit on categories of qualitative research. And before the end of my session, I will go on a role of researcher in qualitative research. And finally, I will touch a little bit on data collection method. So let's go straight to definition of qualitative research. Usually, the students or researchers always, when they decide to conduct a research project, to plan a research project, definitely they have two options in their mind: quantitative or qualitative. obviously, from my observation and my experience throughout the system of our university, especially in UiTM, majority quantitative researchers are around. They are very good with the knowledge, and they're very expert in it. But very limited researchers that I found from my observation are really well versed with qualitative research. Do not get so offended, but this is from my personal observation. Maybe other people have different point of view. This is what I said by qualitative. It's very subjective. It doesn't mean from one person's single point of view, it doesn't mean that you have to agree with me in some point, as long as you can deliver and logically, sensically, that's good enough. That makes everyone in some way think and agree in some perspective of what you've been shared. That's what you mean by quality research. It doesn't mean that it must be definite. It must be strong, must be rigor, it must be this 100%, 100%, 100%. Where's 100%? That's not quality research. It's really subjective. One person way of thinking and point of view might be different from other person, but they share some similarity as well. So let us look what is qualitative research. According to Denzin and Lincoln, 2012, qualitative research is a multi-method in focus involving an interpretive naturalist approach to each subject matter. The multi-method in focus is described as combination of multiple methods, empirical material, perspective, and observers in single study in best understood. Then a strategy that add rigor, breadth, and depth to any investigation. So that's what it means by qualitative research. It really interpretive, naturalist. Everything is reality is subjective. Is everything neutral, natural to the subject matter, and it involves not just a single method of to collect data. It's multiple method, and all data or material collected are empirical. And when involving a lot of people contributing or respondents contributing to the study. So there's a lot of input, not just one person input, but not like what I'm trying to say here is not like a quantitative research. You are basically based on one single tools like self-administered questionnaire. That thing you frame, and then everyone have to follow and contribute according to what has been structured. But in qualitative research, it is everything. The doors open widely. Everyone can contribute. Anything can express themselves in various ways. But in, like I said earlier, 5 minutes ago, in the same time, they also in some way share some similarities in their expression. Well, that's from Denzin and Lincoln, 2012. Or similar perspective by Creswell in 2013. Quantitative is inquiry. Usually, this is the best approach that I use in my PhD, inquiry. My inquiry, the research question, the biggest research question, which I start from for my PhD. When I did my PhD, I start with one single research question, inquiry, to understand based on distinct methodology traditions of inquiry that explore social and human problems. The research built a complex, holistic. This is another term that really represent qualitative research. It's holistic, holism. It covers every single angle. It doesn't redundantness. I mean, it doesn't. There is no predetermined variable. There is no structured way of doing investigation. It's everywhere. You have to study every single details. Analysis usually words, pictures as well, report details, view of informants, interviewer contribute some of the view from some of their views, and conduct conducted the study in natural setting. You don't frame everything. You don't structure. Like I said, questionnaire, everything structured. You don't frame them. Everything natural. So that's what I see and understand from these two, from this researcher, how they define the qualitative research. Okay, in qualitative research, very important researcher need to, he or she themselves need to go deeper to their self, their passion, define their passion. What is actually they want to investigate, how they see themselves, understand the world. That's very important. When we talk about dominant social science research paradigm, it really connected. This is where it started. To start a research project in qualitative research, also quantitative research, there is a paradigm that you are buying, and you need to feel. You need to have that feeling. Like myself, I position myself as social constructivist. So I believe from ontological perspective consideration, which is ontology is principle of viewing the world. In reality, how researchers see the world. How do you see the world as a researcher, as a person? Reality kalau if constructivism, like myself, reality is actively constructed by people from multiple meanings and social position. That's how I see the world. So everything is socially constructed, and there's a lot of meaning, multiple meanings, and it really influenced by multi-social position, higher manager, director, operation of worker club, student, academics. They have different point of view. As for epistemology, constructivism is purely quality research. I'm going to touch constructivism first, then I'll go to positivism and realism. So in terms of epistemology, constructivism position themselves, see themselves, read themselves as subjectivists. They call themselves as subjectivists. Researchers relies on individual views. Knowledge can be gained, can be harnessed through individual to human who are producing, who produce the knowledge. And in terms of methodology, knowledge that's socially constructed through in-depth interview, observation, etc., etc. So you can see from the paradigm, it really connected from ontology, epistemology, and methodology. So constructivism, purely qualitative. This is always been discussed when I did my PhD. A lot of panel, a lot of academics discuss a major issue with research students or higher degree students. They cannot relate, they cannot connect ontology, epistemology, and methodology. They cannot synchronize. That's always the problem, major problem, when they attend their research proposal as well as they submit their thesis, final thesis. It's major to them. All right. Now, let's move on to positivism and realism. As opposed to constructivism, positivism, obviously quantitative, pure quantitative research. It's in term, from the ontology consideration perspective, positivism is looking at the world as a reality is a real and apprehensible through empirical observation and measurement. Everything can be measured in this world. Whereas a realism, or we call it sometimes as a post-positivism, reality is real, however imperfectly apprehensible, but still can be measured. Everything imperfect, but still can be measured and can be understood through a measurement at the end of the investigation. In terms of epistemology, positivism, they call themselves as objectivists because everything can be measured in this world. So everything objective. there must be a tool to measure this, like a survey questionnaire. Part of the reason why they think that can be measured, they try to attempt to avoid from bias. So there's a tool, so this would help them from biasness. So biasness could be an issue or concern if, for the subjectivists or qualitative researchers. As for realism, in terms of epistemology, modified objectivist mixed method is used to reduce bias and validate the finding. This is obvious. And in terms of methodology, positivism, examine verified theory, either experiment or non-experimental, usually non-experimental through survey using a self-administrated questionnaire. For realism or post-positivism, in terms of methodology, reduce bias and validate objectivity of finding through additional method, triangulation. They triangulate, not just one way of doing collecting data, but they triangulate to validate whatever being found. In the same time, some of the case, people would say that it would help in some way to reduce bias in your findings. So why qualitative? Some criticism of quantitative research. Do not get so offended. I'm sorry, Dr. Izzat, Dr. Hafiz, and many other quantitative researchers. But this is basically what has been criticized for quantitative research. Quantitative research usually can involve little or no contact with people or field setting. This is one of the criticisms always been raised. Apart from that, statistical correlation may be based on variables, reductionist way, concept, predetermined variable, randomly defined by researchers themselves. Usually the control is from the researcher, definition of each and every variable from the researcher through the literature. Okay, unlike qualitative research, variable can also be modified when we call for interview, gets more input from the informants through the archival document analysis. There will be more, not just from the literature. The next one, after the fact, the analysis about meaning of correlation may involve some common sense reasoning or even speculation. This is also another common practice that we found in quantitative research. And last but not least, the pursuit of measurable phenomena means that difficult concepts such as aspiration and spiritual. So those are the things that are a little bit problematic to measure. But then how can you measure aspiration using a tool? Using a ruler, like agree to disagree, 1 to 5, aspiration. How can you measure spiritual level from 1 to 5 or 1 to 7 or whatever degree of measurement using these as numbers and figures? So these are some of the common criticism among qualitative researcher to the quantitative research project. All right, let's move on to characteristics of qualitative research. I'm pretty sure everyone have a basic knowledge or depth knowledge on what is qualitative, what are the characteristics, how can I know that this is a qualitative research? The first thing that you should understand is usually begin with a research question, one big, like I mentioned, the past 10 minutes. I start inquiry, the research question, the big one, research question. For example, my study, during my PhD, this is the research question that I come up with together with my supervisory team. How does the Malaysian government integrating local cuisine into international destination marketing strategies for Malaysia? This is the inquiry. I start with this research question. I remember when I first enrolled on the first day at the university, I proposed a purely quantitative research project. The proposal I've come up with purely quantitative. And after several discussion and time given for me to read a literature, so my supervisory team members approach me. We are really into that quantitative research, but the first 6 months, the end of the first 6 months, we have a very long discussion to finalize my studies so that I can finalize my document for DRP, Defense Research Proposal, at the end of the year, the first year. So at the end of the long discussion, I was be honest with everyone saying that I have lost interest with the study because I think based on my literature, after lots of reading, I read a lot, maybe more than 300 literature, and I did some analysis, content analysis. I found that I really think the best way of understanding integration of local cuisines, not so much of quantifying uh, things, but more of qualitative. I need to interview. That's where it comes back to the research paradigm, how I position myself. Because I want to study on Malaysian government, I want to understand them, what they have in their mind. It really affects me. I know in the Malaysian government, there's a lot of pegawai, officers, directors. They have different point of view. So there's a lot of activity, events, promotion, how they come up with the promotion with us, all the statements and sentences in the brochures, posters. So I think it really fit well, the study itself, to this qualitative research. It naturally happened like that. So I asked the permission from my supervisory team member. I say, is that okay if I change from that study to this study? And they say they are so happy. They are very happy and they feel so glad that I actually finally find my journey, my new journey, my new research project, which I have high passion. Now, this is another key term in qualitative research. You need to have that passion. You feel it. If you don't feel it, that's difficult. You need to feel it, into it. We always say in Australia, are you into it? Yes, I'm into it. It's like running into my blood vessel and so on. I really want to know all this. That's why I have this research question. I want to know what's the answer, how this thing happened. So you carry together with you until the end of the project, you get the answer. So that's the first thing. You start with a big research question. The first characteristics of quality research. Second one, research question often begin with how and why. Because it requires further explanation. So what, which, when you can do it. Obviously, like you can tell what, which time, 12 o'clock, what, but how and why. It needs further explanation. That's where quality research take into position. And the next one, it is conducted through intense contact within a field of real setting, life setting. So obviously, we will go and visit people, do some observation, communicate with audiences. I always say audiences. My supervising team member say informant, but I say I have a lot of audiences, not just informants. It's a lot. I have 71 interviewees, and I have more than 100 tourists observe, and I have about 7 events I observed during my data collection. And next one, the characteristic, the researcher's role is to gain holistic or integrated view of every single thing, not just using like quantitative questionnaire and literature, but this one, qualitative, like if you still remember the definition, it is multi-method, multi-resources, from not just from one single interview, not from the literature and interview, but also you need to do the search more, like secondary archival document, observation, a mix of all this. And the last one, that quality research is more of about transferability, faithfulness, and dependability rather than reliability and validity. What is it? What is transferability? It means that the result often, the result of the study is transferable, understood, can be understood, and can be shared in different settings. Like you're studying about Malaysian government utilizing local cuisine, but your result of the study can be transferable to different country or three different phenomena in different country or different place or destination as well. That's always about qualitative research. Faithfulness, consistent of the data when it's or they are analyzed in from various resources. It produces consistent data and findings. Even though you have multi-method, multi-resources, consistently produce the pattern, the theme. That's what I mean by faithfulness. And dependability, it means thorough and comprehensive description, trustworthiness. It means the findings of the study can create trustworthy, no bias. But like I said in the beginning of my presentation, there's an issue with biasness because you're a single person, qualitative, people keep giving you lots of input. So how are you going to treat that? How are you going to avoid biasness? But dependability is very important, but you need to find your ways. You need to put a strategy to reduce biasness in your investigation. Okay, this is what I extracted from one of the study, a comparison between of qualitative and quantitative research. In terms of definition, qualitative research is systematic, subjective. Quantitative research, a formal, objective, systematic. And goal for qualitative research to gain insight, explore the depth, usually the depth all the time. And quantitative research to test cause and effect relation. A characteristic holistic for qualitative, subjectivist, inductive reasoning from the data, and you come to the you find the pattern and conclusion and the theory or the concept itself. You come up with a model, develop a theory, interpretation, basic elements of analysis using words. That is really basic. But now, when I did my PhD, I employ brochures. I analyze pictures in the brochures, website content analysis, etc., etc. And usually, qualitative research want to observe the uniqueness based on these diverse data you've been collected. All right, in terms of research framework, I'd like to share with you how it looks like for quality research as compared to quantitative research. So you can see on the through the screen on the left side, and is quality research on the right side for quantitative research. So qualitative research, as to my understanding, based on my reading, more abstract, like really like a seashell, really there's no definite independent, like quantitative independent to dependent variable. In between independent to dependent variable, there's an intervening moderating variable, etc., etc. That's quantitative. But qualitative research is a slightly different or totally different. The framework itself, it really like that abstract. You can see one example. Another example I like to show, if you can access my thesis, you can see how I come up with my framework, research framework. It really abstract. All right, this is the category of qualitative research. I did a case study approach. Case study studies a specific bounded system, for example, person or institution, developing an in-depth analysis of a single case or multiple cases. I did a multiple cases to understand better how Malaysian government integrating local cuisine into destination marketing strategy. So I choose two major food campaign, national food campaign. So based on these case studies, I really study in depth these two case studies, and then I explain from the outcome. I explain how the Malaysian government utilizing local cuisine into destination marketing strategy. Another popular, famous category of qualitative research is ethnography, to explore the nature of specific social phenomena. Cultural study, you want a culture, you want to study about a group of people or ethnic group, their way of life, etc., etc. So usually you need to go there and be there and immerse yourself in that community and do the work. Very often using a small numbers of cases. And ethno methodology, previously known as bibliography, understand a study about a person, an individual. You want to study about one person, like for example, prime minister, or an idol, or one person who really contribute to the nation, etc., etc. Phenomenology. Phenomenology is understanding the essence of experience of phenomena. One phenomenon happen, suddenly appear, and how you apprehensible the phenomena. And last but not least, a ground theory. It's interplay between analysis data and connections to produce a theory. Obviously, the name itself, ground theory, so it produced the end of the journey theory. Role of qualitative researcher. So you can see it's really big banana in the picture. It really big, a real big responsibility role that you need to understand. You first thing first, becoming a qualitative researcher, to my perspective and my understanding, what I've been advised as well by my team is that you need to be neutral. Eh, I remember Kevin told me, Harry, I know you are Malaysian, you are academic, you know about Malaysian tourism industry, you know about local cuisine, but you need to be neutral in your study. As if like you are foreigner, you know nothing about Malaysia, you know nothing about the tourism industry, you know nothing about that. Then you can produce better result, finding an investigation becoming more meaningful. You need to be neutral. All right. The second one, maintain physical proximity to the research participant, connection. Make sure you can contact each other. You know the participant. You communicate with participant all the time, and then demonstrate theoretical sensitivity, well versed with the literature. Before you go for field work, etc., you decide what kind of data collection method you want to choose and use, with whom you want to um, deal with. Make sure you well versed with the literature. It's very important you have this basic fundamental groundwork. You need to do your groundwork first. The conceptual framework. What is the concept for your study? The framework itself. Then you can conduct the field work. Otherwise, you will lose. You will don't know how to guide yourself. Is this right? Is this what I want to interview? Is it the information that I want? Should I ask this question? Should I not ask this question? Is this a document that I should collect or not? So it's very important for you to demonstrate critical sensitivity. Be insightful, which is mean you need to study about the person or the institution, or the case itself. Like Malaysian kitchen, you need to have basic idea when it started, who actually idea, what is the role of this event, etc., etc. You don't want to go and jump to the pool and meet these people and interview them with no clue, with no idea. You need to have a very general idea of what you will discuss and talk about in your interview session. And also you need to understand the person itself. Who is this people? Director, president, etc., etc. What is his or her responsibility in this event? That's very important as well. As a researcher, you don't want to look so a little bit stupid when you deal with them, and you're asking them questions that really get them so offended. You don't want that happen in the situation and really affect your conversation until the end of the interview session. And the next one, perceive situation is holistically. I've mentioned before. This is sensitive to the personal bias. Like you need to understand to yourself, like I said, be neutral. You cannot You cannot say, oh, I'm Malaysian, I'm Malaysian. It should be Malaysian cuisine, Malay cuisine, it's not Indian cuisine. This is not right. Whatever interview tell me, he's Indian, I'm Malay, I'm a researcher. So you can't do that. You need to be neutral and absorb every single word and thing and digest them as a neutral person. And the last one, researcher diary. You need to have this diary. I've been encouraged by my supervisory team members. I need to have a diary. I call it as a researcher diary, Hairi's diary. So every single day, whatever I feel and think, and my thought that I receive, that I think, based on my literature reading, based on my interview session, observation, I need to write down how do I feel. We call it as reflective exercises. What do I think about the interview session just now? What do I think about the position of this person? So what input I received from this interview session, for how do I feel about this observation exercise the past 1 hour? So you need to write this reflective, we call it reflective exercise in the diary. So why? Because it really helpful, the diary itself. Because sometimes we are human, we are not a machine. We can save everything. Sometimes we forget. So the diary would help you. Why is this like this? Why my data is like this? So you open back your diary and look back what is happening throughout the interview session, what is happening throughout the observation exercise, and so on. All right. The last but not least, this is the last slide of my, sorry, I'm taking too much time. Dr. Izzat, sorry about that. So last
It's okay.
one, data collection method. Obviously, there are three. Usually, the most common and famous one is interview. It can be structured, semi-structured, or unstructured interview. I think everyone, some of you aware of what is structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. Structured, you have a list of questions, and whenever you attend interview, you just ask the question based on the flow of the question, provided there's a probing question as well. Very important to have probing question, because if you remember earlier, I say it says the characteristic of qualitative research, especially the research question, how and why. So they will explain you how and why, and some of the terms that you don't familiar. Like I said, if you remember, I said be neutral. You cannot, when you treat the data, transcribe data, you assume that you understand as what the person told you. You need to let them tell you every single detail, including what do you mean by this? You were saying like that. Can you further explain to me by this statement, by this term? So as a researcher, that is important. Qualitative research is very important. You cannot miss that moment, probing. And semi-structured is you have a couple list of questions, and the rest of the question, it will go along during your interview session. And unstructured question, unstructured interviews is obviously there's no question at all. You based on your research objective and research question, and then you attend interview, and then you do it spontaneously, and it will be like a casual conversation, and then you will feel yourself, is it suffice or insuffice of question and data you receive from the informant or audiences. That is interview. For observation, there are two, which are familiar: participant or non-participant observation. Participant researcher participate in the events or activity and do the observation, but nobody aware that you are in there as a researcher. But you try to understand, like ethnography. Obviously, ethnography use so much of participant observation and unstructured interview. For non-participant, you actually excluded yourself away from the activity, but you observe. Still, nobody aware that you are exist. It can be done either physically you there, or you can record using a camera, sophisticated camera or non-sophisticated camera, but as long as you need to lay out yourself. If you decided to record not to be there, you need to have the floor plan, and then you decide which spot that you need to install the camera. The same with participant, or same with if you are there, you need to have that floor plan, and you need to decide where you will stand and talk and do your activity. That's what I did during my PhD, and why you need to be and stand at that spot. Very important for you to really plan for your observation data collection. Observation also involves observation sheet. It can or it can't. So I did a structured observation form. So I come up with the form, so structured. So I say, this is what I want to look. This is the thing that I want to observe. So when I add the spots that I've planned, so I will take out the form and then tick one by one. What should I do next? I should take picture. I should do this. I should do that. That's really systematic or structured observational sheet. It can be semi-structured. It can be there's no observational sheet. You just have pen and paper, and then you do write yourself. You can do it in front of during the activity or after you left the group or the activity. And last but not least, in my
Maybe another 2 minutes, yeah?
yes, thank you
All
very
right.
much. Okay, a last one is archival references, either printed, digital, or online. This is also part of my data resources during my PhD. Like I mentioned earlier, at the initial stage, I did a content and semiotic analysis, analyze words and also picture in the brochures and website, Malaysian government tourism brochures and website. So printed and digital and online. So that's what I did for my study. Content analysis can be quantitative, can be qualitative. Why? How can it be quantitative? Because you count the word, you come up with the frequency, the figure. That's where the point where you consider it the outcome as quantitative. So if you try to understand and the term, the meaning behind, reading between the line, that's why you consider it as qualitative. More meaning behind the term and the sentences. So digital, video, and so on and so forth. Meeting minute, policies. I did a policy analysis, tourism policy analysis, etc. So that's a little bit of about data collection method. I think that's it from me. Thank you very much. Sorry for taking so much time. That's me. If you can see me at the Chitarasa, one of the food event I've attended for my data collection after the observation. So I got a chance to take a photo myself, to reward myself, because I was there standing and talking to people, walk around, take picture for almost 3 hours, and gap in between 1 hour and the next 3 hours. That's how I strategize my observation at the event. Thank you very much for listening. I really